Hi everybody, it's Becca with DC by Foot and Top Things to Do DC. I'm live here in historic Georgetown. I've been in Georgetown a lot over the last few days, but I just wrapped up a private tour. We do a tour called Wicked Georgetown, which takes you through a little bit more scandalous side of DC's oldest neighborhood. And our last stop on the Wicked Georgetown tour is the Mount Zion and Female Union Society cemeteries. And normally we're out here late at night and it's not a good time to take video or photograph, but this time I had an afternoon tour, and so I'm here and I thought I would share it with you. So I'm going to take you into just a brief little visit into this cemetery. It's definitely off the beaten path. I think it's a site that people don't always know, so I'm going to show it to you, but if you're interested, you can check out our Wicked Georgetown tour and all of our other great Georgetown tours on our website, dcbyfoot.com. We have a lot of great tours coming up. We're starting to really book up, especially for Memorial Day weekend. So if you're interested in coming out, checking out a tour, now is a really good time to book. We're also launching a new series of tours Saturdays during the summer geared for locals. We're going to be going a little bit deeper into our neighborhood, so be sure to check that out. And as always, make sure that you like this page and that you've signed up to get notifications so you'll always know when we're going live. So let me get the camera oriented and I'll take you guys inside. Let's go. Excellent. So just to kind of give you a sense of where I am, that's Q Street. I'm at about Q and 27th. So we're right sort of on the edge of Georgetown. And you come down an area, it's like a little apartment building here. And at first when you walk down, you're sort of like, am I supposed to come this way? But you absolutely are. So two cemeteries together. There's the Mount Zion Cemetery, which was established in 1808. It was part of the old Methodist burying ground, and the Female Union Band Cemetery, which was established in the 1840s. This is actually a brand new marker that was just placed here not too long ago. So I'm going to make sure you guys can get a really good look at this. This is really beautiful to really highlight the cemetery. So Mount Zion established 1809 and Female Union Band Society Cemetery established 1842. The important thing to keep in mind about Georgetown, especially in the 1800s, is that you had freed blacks here, you had enslaved blacks, you had all sorts of people coming together because Georgetown was a port city, but they couldn't always, if you were a person of color, be buried in the same cemeteries. If you sort of look through the fence there, on the other side of the fence is Oak Hill Cemetery. Oak Hill is incredible. We lead tours at Oak Hill Cemetery, but it was a segregated cemetery like a lot of other cemeteries here. So part of the reason these cemeteries are established is to give people who don't have the means to be buried in other cemeteries a place to be laid to rest, and a place for Black Washingtonians to be laid to rest as well. Now, as you sort of walk through, you might notice there are not a lot of grave markers. That doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't grave sites here. Unfortunately, over time, these cemeteries were not well protected. Either of these cemeteries, they didn't have a fence or a gate to protect them. So there have been a lot of markers that have been stolen. There are markers that have been damaged, knocked down, sunken into the ground. And so we're missing quite a lot of markers. And unfortunately, the records here also are a little sketchy. So it's hard to have a really good estimate of how many individuals are laid to rest here or the location of their grave sites. But I'm gonna try to get you a little bit closer to some of these markers here. Here we go. There has been a lot of effort in the last few years, though, to really do a survey of the history of both Mount Zion and the Female Union Band Society cemeteries to really understand who is laid to rest here, understand what these markers can tell us, and to really try to clean up the area and make it a little bit more welcoming, but also a little bit more respectful for those who are laid to rest here. I want to show you one of the more interesting grave sites here. This is the grave site of Nanny. You can see Nanny died just shy of her 12th birthday, so 11 years old at the time of her death. And you can see that people come and leave little presents and remembrances, children's toys, a birthday card. A very beautiful reminder that even though the marker is simple, this represents a person. It represents someone who lived here, someone who made a life here. So as we're coming around, a little bit about the Female Union Band Society. This was an organization that was formed in the 1840s by a group of freed Black women. They wanted to create an organization to care for each other, so that they could care for each other in times of illness, that they could make sure that if they were to pass away, they'd have somewhere to be buried. So it was a group, a collective group that sort of forms to benefit the community. So women would pay dues, and there would be money provided if they were sick. There would be money provided for a grave site and a grave marker and a funeral service. So a benevolent society is how it was described. Now, again, as you sort of look through the video here, you can see we don't have a lot of markers in this center section. Again, many of these we believe have gone missing. We know that some have ended up actually in the homes of locals. In fact, one grave marker was returned not too long ago. Somebody had it in their home. There's even stories about people using some of these markers as coffee tables. So unfortunately, some of the pieces of history here have been taken away. Again, though, a real effort right now in Georgetown to better study the history of these two cemeteries, this sort of combined space, and to better document the history here in Georgetown, particularly the history of our Black residents and citizens. Now you can see many of these markers almost illegible over time, but many of the dates on these, I know they're very hard to see. We're talking about the 1840s, the 1850s. Cemeteries like this are important, though, and they were important for those that couldn't afford to be buried in more expensive cemeteries. It gave a place for people, obviously of color, but also for immigrants, for laborers. After Civil War, though, it becomes almost exclusively an African-American cemetery. We can see more of the markers here. I'm going to take you around this way. There are continual research and work being done on the cemetery. There's also some environmental studies being done, trying to understand how we can better preserve this for the future. One big issue is drainage and runoff. As you can see, there's quite a bit of issue there. And so they're trying to address that, trying to figure out how we can better preserve these markers for the future. And you can see this actually really does just back up right to apartment buildings right here along Q Street Northwest. Certainly, if you're a DC local and you've never come down this way, I encourage people to take a little time, explore Mount Zion and the Female Union Band Society cemeteries. I think it's an interesting glimpse into a history we tend to forget. We tend to focus, I think, on the bold-faced names. We tend to focus on the most famous people who are laid to rest somewhere. And we have lots of wonderful cemeteries in Washington, D.C. that have lots of really famous, important, notable people, and certainly those are all worth visiting. But it's important to remember that cities are shaped and communities are built and history is made not just by the named, but by the unnamed, by the less famous, by the everyday, by the everyday person. And so a cemetery like this is a good reminder of that, and a good reminder of how important it is to try to preserve that history regardless. So it really is worth coming by. I definitely suggest coming by during the day. I will warn too, this is not the most accessible space. There's very little sidewalk, and there's a lot of tree branch and roots. So something to just be aware of from a mobility perspective, to kind of keep an eye out for if you do decide to visit. I just almost tripped. So watch your step if you come and visit the cemetery. Again, our Wicked Georgetown tour, which we run most evenings, along with our other true crime and scandal tours, ends typically right outside of the cemetery. It's very spooky at night, but I really recommend coming at least once during the day, just so you can really get a sense of what the cemetery is like. So that's it. Just a very short little visit here to Mount Zion and Female Union Band Society cemeteries. Again, we're here in historic Georgetown. Nice little glimpse of, I think, a lesser known aspect of Washington, D.C. and historic Georgetown. As always, if you have questions, you can always drop them in the comments. We are happy to answer your questions. I can share some links in the comments below too if you want a little bit more information. I hope that you will consider taking a Georgetown tour. We have, of course, the Wicked Georgetown, which I mentioned, but also our Ghost of Georgetown, Historic Georgetown, Wild Women of Georgetown, a lot of other really great tours just in Georgetown and of course around the city. If you know anybody coming to Washington, D.C., if they have questions, want suggestions, if they're looking for some hidden gems like this, you can always reach out to us. We're always happy to help you plan your D.C. visit. Thank you guys so much. Have a great Monday, and hopefully I will see you guys on a tour soon. Bye.